Hello and welcome back to another video today here again on the brand new Forza Motorsport game to take a look at the three starter vehicles and try and figure out which one is actually best. Before we begin though, I should probably make it clear that it doesn't actually really matter which of the three you choose, as it's only really for the introductory Builders Cup series, which consists of only 3 races before you'll be asked to purchase another vehicle for use in the next Builders Cup. And depending on which one you choose will determine what the AI will be driving. So it's not like you're going to be at any disadvantage if you pick a car that's not necessarily as fast. So this video is only really as a bit of fun to compare the 3 quite different vehicles that you get to choose from at the start of this game. Also, as the upgrade system is absolutely terrible in this game, and I don't really want to spend 45 hours to unlock all the parts for the 3 vehicles, for the purposes of today's video, I'm going to be comparing the 3 vehicles completely stock. So, in case anyone hasn't seen any of this game's campaign and isn't aware of what these 3 starter car options are, I should probably introduce them to you first. Firstly, we have the 2018 Honda Civic Type R, 306 horsepower worth of front-wheel drive understeer for a 2-litre inline-4 engine. For some reason, unlike Horizon, if you set this game to measure in miles per hour rather than euros, you then can't set weight to grams. So I have no concept of how heavy these vehicles actually are, but this Honda is apparently 1,414 pounds, whatever that means. Anyway, overall it's in B-Class at 571 PI, and yours in-game for just $89,000, if you don't pick it as your free starter car, of course, at the beginning. Then we have the 2019 Subaru STI S209, one of the paid Car Pass cars in Horizon 5, now here in the base game of Forza Motorsport. This is more powerful than a Honda, producing 341 horsepower from a 2.5-litre 4-cylinder boxer engine, and has the advantage of all-wheel drive traction, but also the added weight that comes with that, weighing over 100 more pounds than the Honda, meaning it's rated lower in B-Class overall than the Civic at 547 PI. It's also the cheapest car in today's comparison, at a very reasonable $83,000. And last but not least, we have the most powerful option, the 2018 Ford Mustang, 460 horsepower of American 5-litre V8 muscle, all going to those rear wheels, which creates much spinning. Also, unsurprisingly, the Mustang is the heaviest car here, at nearly 1,700 pounds, putting it between the other 2 in B-Class overall at 568. And it's also priced between the other 2 at $88,000, making it only just cheaper than the Civic, which is somehow the most expensive vehicle here. Not sure how we got to the point where Civics are more expensive than everything else, but there you go. So this gives us the option of 2 Japanese cars and an American car, which I think is kind of strange and a bit of a shame, because usually there is an American option, a Japanese option, and a European option to try and keep things balanced and fair, in most games, traditionally anyway. So it's kind of a shame to see 2 Japanese cars and nothing from Europe. But anyway, when I first played the campaign, I picked the Civic as several people had recommended it to me as the best option, but I really didn't enjoy driving it, maybe just because I was getting to grips with the game, but I kind of wished I'd gone for the Subaru. So let's see if I was right about that, or if the Civic is indeed the best vehicle. Starting, of course, with a simple top speed test, using Circuit de la Sarthe with no chicanes, starting each car behind these cones at the beginning of the straight, and then blasting down that Mulsanne straight to see what speed we can get. Obviously without the chicanes, I'm pretty confident all 3 of these are going to reach their top speed along here, starting with the Civic, which got up to an impressive 179 miles per hour, which is more than I was expecting from a hot hatch, but it was kind of a shame it couldn't just get that one more to tick over 180. But a good, solid benchmark time from the Civic, and a lot more than I was expecting. Then I took the Subaru down there, which unfortunately struggled somewhat, only managing 160, which is probably down to a combination of its weight, its all-wheel drive, and the downforce, because I'm pretty sure the aero on this is more useful than visual like it is on the Honda. And finally, I set off in the Mustang with the most dramatic start, of course, spinning those wheels up. And it was unsurprisingly the fastest of the three, but not by as much as I expected, reaching 181 miles per hour, only 2 more than the Civic. So the real surprise here is how close the Civic got to that Mustang. Unsurprisingly, the Mustang was the fastest, and that poor Subaru struggled a bit. Okay, so straight line stuff out of the way. What happens when we introduce corners? I took the 3 cars into a couple of Rivals events, giving them each 1 warm-up lap and 3 flying laps at each circuit, and taking the best time of them to find out which is best. Starting with the Nurburgring GP circuit. Again, first up with the Civic, which set the benchmark time of a 2:22.3. At this point, no idea if that is any good or not, as we set off in the Subaru, which immediately felt nicer to drive, but I could really feel the lack of straight line speed that we found in that top speed test, so I did struggle for time, even with a bit of corner cutting at the final chicane. My best lap in the Subaru was way off the pace of the Civic, only managing a 2:23.8 as its best time. Finally then, the Mustang, which I thought might struggle, given there's corners here, but the power was enough to more than make up for that, actually making it the fastest car here, slightly surprisingly, as well as in the top speed test, setting a time of 2:22.0, just beating the Civic there. It is only 3/10 faster than the Civic, and I had more practice by then because I'd taken the other 2 round first. The third car you take always has the advantage, so for fairness in the next Rivals event, I ran the Mustang first and the Civic last. So the second track that I picked was Catalunya, as it's another one I like to think I'm fairly familiar with, although somehow I managed to pick the stupid version without that final chicane. As I said, this time I went first with the Mustang, and it was off to what felt like a good start. I missed a few apexes here and there, but I was gradually getting faster each lap, right up until my third and final flying lap, when I pushed the braking point way too far right at the start of the lap, and put it in the gravel. Anyway, my best lap before doing that was a 2:05.461, setting the benchmark for the next car, the Subaru. This of course felt slower on the straights as it had in the other 2 challenges, but through the corners it was so much better. You could take a whole load more curb than you could in the Mustang, and it felt a lot more enjoyable being able to push it that bit more. It did understeer a bit, causing me to go into the gravel at one point on the final corner, about to go onto the final lap, so I did have to rewind a little bit so as not to ruin that final flying lap. Somehow at the end of the 3 laps, my best time was a 2:05.459, making it only 0.02 of a second faster than the Mustang, so not a lot of difference between those 2 here. And finally, the Civic, which again felt reasonably fast on the straights and had great initial turn into the corners, but did then tend to wash a little bit wide mid-corner, understeering even worse than that all-wheel drive Subaru, which is no real surprise from a front-wheel drive car. Occasionally, if you trail braked into the corner a bit too aggressively, the back would start to swing round, and when you regained traction and sort of caught it, it would then propel itself in the opposite direction off the track. But once you get used to the car, you can kind of avoid kicking the back out in the first place. At the end of the 3 flying laps in the Civic, it had smashed the other 2 lap times completely, setting a 2:04.2, beating the other 2 by over a second. So here the Civic was substantially faster than the other 2 vehicles. What conclusions can we draw from this then? Well, firstly, the Mustang is the fastest in a straight line, rather unsurprisingly, but only just faster than the impressive top speed of the Honda Civic, beating that by only 2 miles per hour. The Mustang was also the fastest car around the Nurburgring GP circuit, on paper giving it the most victories in the tests today. However, again, the Civic wasn't far off, only being beaten by 0.2, and the Mustang had the advantage of going last into that event. When things were switched around, giving the Civic the advantage of going last, it really did take advantage of that advantage and gained over a second advantage in lap time. It was so close to the Mustang in top speed and the first Rivals event, and beat it so convincingly here, by by over a second that I'm inclined to actually say that the Civic is indeed the best car. Although, like I say, technically the Mustang won 2 out of 3 of the comparisons today. One thing is for sure though, the Subaru is not as good as the other 2 options, but it is worth noting that to me it felt the nicest to drive, despite feeling slower, and also has the best customization options, retaining that Varis widebody kit that you could apply to it in Forza Horizon 5. So overall, I would say that the Civic was the right choice in the end, and that is probably the one that I would recommend, even though the Mustang won 2 of the 3 challenges. However, like I said, this will be only used for the initial 3 races, so it doesn't really matter in the end, and it comes down to personal preference, whether you prefer all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, or front-wheel drive. Just pick the car that you feel is most you, I suppose, in the end, because it doesn't really matter. Like I say, the AI will balance themselves to match whichever one you do choose. But yeah, I would say the Honda, if you're going to compare the 3, is probably the best option. Anyway, that is going to be all for today's video, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back with the next one very soon.